Yes, that's right. It's Joe here, live for Joyrider TV, back with some more Q&A from the Joyrider TV studios here on the Greek island of Lefkos. Yes, and yeah, it's been a week of mixed emotions here on the Greek island. I was very happy to finally produce a video for beginner sailors who perhaps didn't have access to a catamaran. I think there's far more beginner sailors out there with access to a monohull, which is why I've made finally a beginner monohull sailing video, which I think was some very good work. I think you'll find, and yeah, hopefully that will help a lot of people. So that was the big positive point. On the other side of the coin, I did have an absolute shocker. Can't even remember what day of the week it was. Tuesday. Yeah. All right, brace yourselves. This stung a bit. So I was I had Bad Boy 94, the Tornado, on the trailer just to take it down to the beach to start work on refinishing the mast. It's got a carbon mast. And I was so concerned with not hitting a car with the trailer, parked car, that I kept stopping, getting out of the car just to check the trailer. Is it all right? Yes, it is. Someone had parked a bit too close. And didn't look at the mast at all, and went round a corner quite tight to get out of that spot, caught the mast in a tree and snapped it in half. Carbon. Ouch. Yeah. But since that happened, there have been people in touch saying it's okay, you can get this repaired. So there is perhaps a bit of light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully there'll be a newly repaired Bad Boy 94 mast in the future fairly soon, so that I could get on the water with Ben to train ready for the World Championships in July. That is the intention. Yes. All right. So I'm just going to start off this week by checking in with everybody who's checking in. Always nice. We've got Scott dropping it in the slot. He is straight in pole position. Good morning to the Joyrider TV community. The winter snow. Where is it? Ohio. Is it? I could be wrong. USA. Winter snow on road, almost all gone. Hope to start sending it in a week. Yes, that's what we like. Send it. Oregon. Sorry, Scott, I should know better by now. Yeah, so sending it, definitely. I think there's got to be some good sending it going on soon. The speed stick, the action has really been heating up. And actually, on the topic of the speed stick, yeah, and actually before that, on the topic of on the topic of last week, no Q&A last week. That is because I had to have a tooth ripped from my mouth on Friday, so I wasn't really very good at speaking on Friday. So that is why there was no Q&A last week. But you may have seen the Hobie 16 single-handed sending it video. I don't know if I spoke about this in the Q&A. No, it wouldn't have been. So it has been asked of me to start putting my own speeds on the speed stick. So I've started doing that. I think I'm second from the bottom on the Minicat. I've got one in the middle on the Nacra 15. And then I did submit the speed from the Hobie 16 solo. But in the video, that I did hit a maximum speed, which surprised me that the telemetry showed a speed that big. Yes, it felt very, very quick, but I thought at least, come on, give me a chance to warm up before giving me a speed that is so big that there's no chance to exceed that for the rest of the summer. So yeah, there was a speed of 24.83, I think it was, on the telemetry overlay solo, which it felt rapid. It was rapid. But then on the water speed app, which I've declared to be the official speed tracker of the speed stick for those who can use it, any other speed tracking app is certainly accepted. But if you can use the water speed app, then it means more of us are reading from the same page as it was, which is going to make the speed stick a more fair competition and what would you call it? More fair and more accurate, because the water speed app is measuring with a higher degree of accuracy. So on the water speed app, my top speed for 2 seconds was 23.4 knots. So it's that speed which I've submitted to the speed stick, because having declared that that is the official speed tracker, you've got to put your money where your mouth is. And that is what I have done. So there we go. Few little nuggets of the good stuff there. All right. We've got Ben XM. Hello from Baku in Azerbaijan. All right. Oh, Ben is Benedetto. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yes. All right. Yeah, good to have you on board, Ben. All right. We got Ryan on board in Maui. Ryan should be hitting these shores of Vasiliki Lefkas, Greece fairly soon. Very much looking forward to that. Leland Lee also perhaps hitting these shores soon as well. Greetings from Clearwater, Florida. Lee just outside the podium today in 4th place. All right. Scott says bummer. Yeah, not half. Yeah, it really did. I don't know. It sucked the jam out of my donut somewhat. All right, we've got David. Got to go sailing. G. Good morning from San Diego. Great to have you on board, David. Must be somewhere close to the crack of dawn where you are. All right, Ben says I can offer you my F20 trailer that I don't use anymore. Oh, I tell you what, that has been another little topic for me in the tornado front recently. So I will definitely be in touch about that, because my tornado trailer, now broken as well, but has been declared not legal anymore in Greece. So yeah, I'll definitely be in touch. Jens is with us, channel member Jens. Hello, Jens. Nice that you could tune in again. Good evening. 2 weeks to go until I visit you for some days in Vass. And then we got Oliver on board as well. Greetings to everyone. Nice. I think, and Sonar is with us as well from Virginia Beach. Glad that you're feeling better since last week. Yeah, it was, it would have been a very interesting Q&A with me not able to answer any questions, but yeah, thanks very much. And yeah, certainly feeling a bit more lively now than I was. Thank you. All right. So yeah, no lead question in today's Q&A, but I thought I would just start off by the previous Q&A, which was actually 2 weeks ago. We were talking about which boats were the best for single-handed sailing. And I've had some feedback from the Joyrider TV global community. So I thought I would pass that on. Don't worry. This is going to be good. All right. So first one. Sorry, I didn't get the name. In fact, for some reason, I didn't save all of the names. So apologies if this is your comment and you're not getting a mention. But anyway, still valuable information. First one, the Topcat. Topcat being a German brand. K3 is an excellent single-handed cat. but I also use it to sail leisurely with a couple of kids on board. It's the maximum sized cat of their range that still fits on the top of my car when disassembled. And these are designed to be disassembled easily. The newer version, K3X, it's a bit more sporty, and the more family orientated version would be the K4X. Very good information. Next one, the Australian, one of the Australian favourites in the 14 footers, the Windrush 14, was sold in the USA as the Track 14. So there we go. Mystery solved. The Track 14 is the same as the Windrush 14. Okay. These are great, especially with modern square top sails. Yeah, I can imagine. Another comment was, as a great single-handed boat, the Hobie 18. Yeah. I would have to agree that the sailing aspect would be really fun. Hobie 18, loads of power, too much wind, just roll the jib up and you've got less power. The Hobie 18 has got a significant amount of sail area in the jib. So yes, it is a great choice. However, one thing that we must consider, especially when looking at which boat to sail single-handed, is, can we get it out of the water? Hobie 18 is going to be quite a lot of weight for one person to pull out of the water on their own, unless you've got some real, what would you call it, like a genius bit of technology to help you get the boat out of the water. Like if you could put it on an actual road trailer every time you bring it out and tow it behind the car, then that would work. But you'd need to put it somewhere else while you get the car reversed into the down the slipway, that sort of thing. But yes, agreed, the Hobie 18 would be a lot of fun single-handed. All right, Jason, who I believe is in Australia, says the Nacra 14 square, which, to be honest, I've never heard of. I've kind of heard of, there's some Nacras which are called square, but the 14 square, he says, making a big comeback here in Australia. And the Windrush 14 is also very popular here in Western Australia. I sail F17 Nacra, which isn't the Inter. It's not the Nacra 17. It's the F17. And Hobie 17, which apologies for not mentioning the Hobie 17 in the lineup. Both excellent single-handed boats, but unfortunately not hugely popular over here. The Nacra 16 square is also a great single-handed boat. Yeah, there we go. Okay, continuing. All right, so continuing from, oh, how would you pronounce that? Usty Boy? I'm going to say Usty Boy 93. Yeah, so the single-handed foiling catamaran that its name eluded me last time is the iFly 15. I think it's called the iFly 15, maybe just the iFly, but that would be, if your budget allowed it, if you wanted to get a dedicated foiling boat, kind of more aimed at single-handed sailing than double-handed sailing, then the iFly would certainly be the winner's choice. Yeah, really good choice there. Usty Boy says top shelf boat. Yes, top shelf. That means very good, top level. Would definitely give it a higher than 1 out of 10 for beginner, considering how easy it is to sail. Yeah, I think that is possible. That is probably from my catamaran knowledge presentation, where maybe I foolishly gave it 1 out of 10, having not sailed it, where I was just assuming because it's a foiling boat, it wouldn't be so suitable for less experienced sailors. There we go. That's where that came from. Anyway, okay. So there we go. With the tie-up from the Witch boat for single-handed sailing. All right, so just back into the live chat. We got Benjamin on board in Germany. Very good. Oliver says, please push the like button. Yeah, very, very sensible advice there. Yeah, at this point, 3 ways that you can support the live Q&A. Here we go. This is a different thing. You may have noticed, or you may not have noticed because you didn't even notice, but all of the live Q&A videos now are without any adverts on them. I've been able to turn it off. But that means that I don't get any kind of revenue from doing the Q&A. And it is by getting a little bit of this advertising money that is keeping the Joyrider TV YouTube channel going. So if you'd like to support the live Q&A with no advertising, then just feel free to bang in a super sticker located just next to the chat box and to be ad-free for the live Q&A. Thank you very much. If you'd rather, just hitting the like button is also really, really useful because that means more people will get this presented to them in the next days. And it's some great information, I think you'll find. All right, there we go. Yay, well done, Jonathan. Straight in with a bluey. Thank you very much for your support, keeping the Q&A ad-free. Nice. All right, so Leland Lee, did the Acat make the list? Laugh out loud. To be honest, I don't know much about the Acat, so no, it didn't make the list. But that's because I don't know much about it. All right, we got Theodore on board. All right, Theodore says, what catamaran would you recommend to an intermediate catamaran sailor? That is, it could be almost anything at all. But if we start off with Hobie 16, Hobie 18, Hobie Tiger, if you like a bit more of a challenge. Not that, like the kind of more racing boats, a lot of the time, they're not actually that much more difficult to sail. In fact, you could argue that a Hobie Tiger, which is designed as a racing boat, is easier to sail than a Hobie 16, which was definitely designed as a mass market kind of like everybody should sail that boat back in the 70s. But the thing that makes the racing boats perhaps less suitable for a less experienced sailor is that they're more fragile. I think that's the big thing. So like a Tiger or something similar, like one of the older F-18s without the square top mainsail. So, sorry, not square top. What am I saying? Without the deck sweeper mainsail. So if you're not familiar with the deck sweeper, rather than that's the square top. We're all square top these days. So the normal mainsail would be like that. Yes. Now the deck sweeper mainsail. Let's do this in another color. The bottom of the sail would come all the way down to the trampoline, and having the sail come all the way down to the trampoline, there's the main sheet there. That only gives you this gap at the back of the boat, and it does make the boat much more difficult to sail. So the modern F-18 with the deck sweeper sail not as suitable. But the older F18s, which could be a Hobie Tiger, could be a Nacra Inter 18 or Nacra F18, Nacra Infusion, could be a Hobie Wildcat, could be a Diam, could be a Cirrus R2, would it be? It could be a great many things. There are too many to remember at this time. But yeah, so any of those boats, but there are so many other boats. If you want something brand new, the perfect boat for the intermediate level cat sailor, if you want to sail more single-handed or with very lightweight people, the Nacra 500 Mark II. I've sailed it now and I thought it's an absolutely fantastic boat. And when you add the rolling spinnaker, that is a really fun boat to sail. Doing exactly the same job, but with a bit more volume, a bit bigger. So if you were going to be sailing with two sailors all the time, let's say, perhaps more weight, then the Nacra 570 Mark II would be equally very good. All right, thanks very much to Hussein in Egypt for the super sticker. Yes, the ball is rolling, keeping the Q&A ad-free. Yeah. All right. So thank you very much, by the way. Hussein is actually coming to Vasiliki soon as well. I think there are more of the Joyrider TV global community planning to come to Vasiliki Lefkas, Greece at the moment than any year that has gone by so far. Is that inevitable? Possibly. Yes. So perhaps what we should do is get some dates down of when people are coming. So if other members of the Joyrider TV global community are thinking of coming, then everyone can get in touch and go, I'd like to go when other people who are in the live chat every week are going to be there, because that sounds like it'd be really fun. I think it would do too. Now, something else. Sorry, Theodore, I'm going to come back to some more intermediate catamarans. In fact, let's get back to this now. The Dart 18. If you're sailing equally single-handed and double-handed, if it's more single-handed and you're not so heavy, the Dart 15. Any of the Topcat range from Germany, of course, depends on where you are. Gosh, I'll have to have a look back at the I did do a video on this topic, which is it's the ultimate guide to all types of catamaran. It's split into two parts. The first part was kind of more the intermediate beginner sort of level cats. I think it was called the Catamaran Knowledge. I'd have to check. And the second part was more intermediate up to advanced level catamarans. So there we go. All right. Yeah, so I think I'm going to leave it there with the intermediate catamaran choices. There are a lot, but do check out the Catamaran Knowledge. Scott says, and rightly so, with the Hobie 18, writing a Hobie 18 solo would be a challenge. Yes. And in fact, I think maybe one of I'll put it on the list, a video that I'll make quite soon is I'll take out a Hobie. Maybe I'll take out a Hobie Pacific solo. The Hobie Pacific is quite a heavy boat. It's heavier than a Tiger. I think it's 190 kilos. And take the capsize writing bag and see if I can bring that bad boy up single-handed. Because we love a challenge. Yes, we do. All right. All right. We've got Greg on board. Greg in San Diego. Great to have you with us, Greg. Yes. All right. Jonathan says, it's never sailed. All right. I got a used Prindle 18 for my first boat and fixed it up. that is a good choice as well in the intermediate level catamaran. So that the Prindle 18 was the first 3 Prindles was, I think the Prindle 16 came first, and these boats all have asymmetric hulls. So if asymmetric hulls mean when we look at the hull profile from, let's say, from the back, it means we've got a flat edge, which is the outside of the hull, and a curved edge, which is the inside of the hull. But much like on the Hobie 14 and 16, which has this, if it was the Prindle, it would basically have a similar kind of hull shape, but just without the raised trampoline. So the thing that makes the asymmetric hull, one of the things that makes the asymmetric hull a little bit more difficult to sail, is that we haven't got any sort of central pivot point on the hull. Whereas on a skeg hull catamaran, like the Dart 18, let's say, the pivot point is like this area here, the skeg. On the asymmetric hull, it's really broad, which means that the boat doesn't pivot on an axis. And then if we have the boat which has a centerboard or dagger board, like Tornado, then the pivot point is really central, which actually makes that category of boat much easier to tack. There we are. Yeah, so carrying on with Jonathan's comment, what would be one recommendation for the first launch of the Prindle 18? I would say one recommendation would be just don't rush it. Don't go out if the forecast isn't particularly good. You know, if it's forecast to be, if there's any chance of kind of stormy weather, steer clear of that. I would personally, you could say it's because I live in Greece, but I personally avoid going out if it looks like rain on the forecast as well, because sometimes with rain comes gusty wind, which you don't want. And then the other thing I would look for in the forecast is if this was your launching area here, if you were going to be launching from there, just try to not even try. Definitely, if you're going out, unless it's a fairly small lake, if it's a small lake, don't worry quite so much. But if it's anything other than a small lake, like if it's a big lake, if it's the open sea or a large area of water, you want the wind. Wind is always blue. You may have noticed that. You need the wind coming in a fairly onshore direction. So the least onshore would be this sort of cross. Yeah, we could do cross at a push, but what we really want is the wind a bit onshore, because if the wind is a bit onshore and something goes wrong, where are we? We've got a catamaran. So if we're out sailing over here and something goes wrong and the wind is fairly onshore, we know that we're going to get blown back to land, albeit eventually. Safety, very important. So that would be my key takeaway advice for first time out. Choose the right conditions. Watch a load of videos as well. All right, thanks very much to Ryan in Maui for the super sticker. Yes, I think we're doing well in keeping the Q&A ad-free. Very good. All right, we have got Duke on board. Nice to have you with us, Duke. I think Duke's ears pricked up when the word Prindle was mentioned. Yes, I still haven't sailed a Prindle. And I've sailed, you know, I think now that I've sailed some Nacras, that is a little bit of a step closer, because I think, I'm trying to remember what I was told, but I think Nacra became kind of like the owner of the Prindle brand when Prindles stopped being produced and Nacra became a bigger brand. All right, so Sonar says, had an iFly 15 demo in Miami, Florida last year. Great boat and not too difficult to single hand. The reduced weight of the boat helps it take off sooner. However, all of the carbon fiber makes the boat very expensive. Yes, or quite expensive, depending on what your definition of quite or very is. Yeah, thanks again to Ryan for the super sticker. All right. Duke says fun race out of Ventura, California, I believe that is, June the 14th. June the 14th, can you get to California with your sailboat? If you can, Ventura to Anacapa Island. Cool. Can I come? Unfortunately, I don't think I can. Not for that one. Sorry. All right. Oliver says, can you please explain the position of the mast rotation upwind on an F-18? We can do that, I think. All right. So let's start off with some wind. Wind is there. And so I'm going to draw the boat on because it's going to be easier for our purposes here. So what we're trying to think of with the mast rotation on the boat. Now, you would have a mast rotation control on perhaps the more performance catamarans. And the mast rotation control, so if this is the mast, this is how it would look. You have a metal bar, usually metal, which is called the spanner bar. So the mast kind of pivots on a point in the middle there. And then you've got this metal bar called the spanner bar. And then the most basic form is, if this is the boom, you have a cleat on top of the boom like here. And then to control the mast rotation, because the way that it works is that the mast is always being kind of pushed by the boom. So it's always being encouraged to rotate. So with this line going to the cleat, we are restricting it from rotating so we can lock it at the angle which we want it. So if we release the line, the mast will rotate more. If we pull the line, it will rotate less. So what would we do with this? Okay, so for upwind, in most conditions, what we want to do, so that's our true wind, which would mean our induced wind, our apparent wind, upwind, would be just a little bit further round. And then with the rotation of the mast, what we're doing is we're kind of pointing the mast at the direction of the wind. So if I just give the mast a bit of a tail so that we can see it more clearly. So what we're doing for most conditions, until we start getting overpowered upwind, is we're pointing the mast approximately just behind the shroud. So 2 reasons for that. One is so that we're pointing the mast at the wind, so that we get a flow of air over both sides of the mast. But the second reason we're doing that is so that the mast really very smoothly becomes part of the sail, because what we're trying to do is have a smooth flow of air over the whole back of the sail for the best airflow. So that is what we're doing with the mast. Then when do we change the rotation of the mast? Once we've got to the stage, so when we're sailing, as the wind increases, if we're lifting the hull, we're going to pull on the downhaul, and when we're lifting the hull and we're having to sheet out, we pull the downhaul more, and we keep doing that more downhaul until we get to the stage where the downhaul is on absolutely full. Yeah. So once we've got the downhaul on absolutely full, what's our next line of attack in reducing the power? What I would do, possibly, depends if I was racing or just sailing recreationally. If I was sailing recreationally, I would lift the dagger boards about this much. That makes the boat so much easier to sail. But with the mast rotation, we can also bring the mast rotation more in, so that the mast is then pointing more at the corner of the back beam. So that is the most that on most boats, that we'd want to pull the mast rotation in, because then what that is going to do is, because as we've downhauled the sail has got much flatter. Sorry, it'd be kind of like that, which means our whole rig becomes much flatter by having pulled the mast rotation in. There we go. All right. So back in the live chat. Hope that's a suitable answer there, Oliver. Hussein says, I trained with Joe in Egypt. My sailing experience leaped forwards. Yes. Going for round 2 soon. Yeah, I think 2 weeks, I think. If you want to take your sailing to a new level, I recommend having a few sessions with Joe. Yes. It's something that I don't advertise too much, but maybe I should. But like what Hussein is talking about, I can travel to you and give you coaching on your boat in the venue where you sail. Wow, that sounds pretty good. Yes, it's pretty good. And this is what I was going to mention earlier, actually. And to help with that, I've recently, I think last week, I've put on my website, totaljoyrider.com, you can now see my schedule of when I'm going to be away, when I'm already booked, things like that. So if you are thinking of either coming to Vasiliki Lefkas, Greece, obviously you wouldn't want to come here if I wasn't going to be here, surely. Gosh, no, it'd still be good. It would. Or if you're thinking, actually, if a few of us got together, we could get Joe to come out to our club, and he could give us coaching for a week between us, and we'll all be better sailors, and we get to hang out with this absolute legend. Yeah, that's a good plan as well. So yeah, the schedule that I post on my website, updating it every time something comes in. So if you're thinking of anything like what I did with Hussein and Tarek in Egypt, then you could do the same. There you go, for the ultimate boost to your catamaran sailing experience, skills, and general enjoyment. There we go. I can also have a look at your rudders. Okay, so Duke says, loved the Nacra tour, as did I. It was amazing. The Nacra 20 is the ultimate luxury ride. Well, I think there's a new 20-footer on the dock. I think at the Nacra 50th anniversary regatta in June in Texas, I think we're going to see some of the first new Nacra 20s in action. Oh yeah. All right, we've got Immersive Madness on board. Nice to have you with us. This is a name I don't recognize, so welcome to the live chat. Every Hobie 16 I've seen in person has a pulley wheel hanging on the forward trampoline crossbar. Yes, you're right. It's not for part of the jib sheet and traveler. What's it for? It is for when they come from the factory. All of the 16s that get built in the factory are fitted for the spinnaker. So this is a spinnaker block for the halyard. The funny thing is, most 16s don't end up using a spinnaker, so they do end up having a redundant block on the front beam. Yeah, so that is what that is for. So if you've got 16 with one of these blocks, you've probably got to block up the mast as well. I would suggest taking them off and putting them in your toolbox, and then you've got 2 spare blocks there. I would say for free, but you've probably paid for them when you bought the boat somehow. All right, so there we go. So back to the pre-loaded questions. If you had a pre-loaded question, you've tuned in specially. Sorry for the delay, but I'm sure you've been enjoying this very high quality, what would you call it, information. All right, so this one is from Sonar, who I'm guessing is the same as Sonar, who's in the live chat. Sonar says, found out my boat had a leak the hard way when I got swamped after a capsize and needed a tow back to the port. Found a significant leak from the anchor, from the shroud anchor point. And what should we do there to put it right? Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because that needs to be really strong. So like with most questions that I get asked, if there's not a specific boat being mentioned in the question, then is it wrong for me to assume it's a Hobie 16 because there are more Hobie 16s in the world than every other single catamaran put together? Is that fair? I'm going to assume it's a 16. So, or it is a 16. There we go. Safe assumption. So if we just look at the hull, what we have is, so when the boat is built in the factory, this would be one piece like this, and then the other piece, let's do it in a different color for effect, would be the deck. Sorry, and then we'd have a gunnel on the inside as well, like that. So it's built in 2 pieces. Now, the first thing that that we want to look at is, has the gunnel gone soft? So like when you grab the gunnel, does it move? If it has, then, so how would I describe that? I think just like that. So if you get your fingers in there, does it move like that? So soft gunnels. Now this is the cause of this will be that the glue that's used to join the side to the deck has become not gluey anymore. It has given up. So this is a bit of an issue. So if it's gone soft like that, which it probably has, if the boat is leaking from the shroud anchor point, then what we need to do is dig out all of the glue from the soft bit and stick it back together with something better. Now, I would suggest sticking it back together. I would go for sticking it together with epoxy, some epoxy resin with like micro bubbles, or like a thickening powder, and maybe even a little bit of chopped strand in there as well to make it a bit thicker. Then really pack it out with that. I may be wrong. This might not be the best solution, but if I was faced with this with my boat, that is what I would do. So, but the first thing that we really need to do is dig out all of the stuff that is no longer working. So get in there with some sort of digging out tool, and if possible / available / you feel it's worth it and you're not so experienced doing repairs, then I would take it to a boat builder to do it for you, because it's, you know, the investment in materials to do the job plus the time it takes to do the job. If you're not so experienced, this could become quite a major repair. To save the money you would have spent on materials, give that to a boat builder. Say, could you give me my boat back in a couple of days so it's really good? That is what I'm going to do with my mast on the Tornado. I'm not even going to clean it up or anything. I'm going to send it to a boat build, to a carbon guy to repair, and then knowing that I'm not wasting time trying to do it myself or wasting money on materials, but getting somebody else to do it. If you're fairly confident with your repair skills, then you could at least start having a dig in there to see what is going on. That is what I think on that one. Okay, so yes, Ben, I haven't forgotten you at all. So next in the preloaded and the live chat is Benedetto. In I've recently learned Azerbaijan has an M20. Yeah, now that is a serious boat. The M is because it's a Mastrom, 20 because it's 20 feet long. I believe the M20 is over 3 meters wide, making it wider than a Tornado. And originally just with the mainsail and a spinnaker, and very light, very stiff, very well built, very, very quick. This is an absolute mean machine. That is what boat we're talking about. And the question that Benedetto has is, despite cleaning and lubricating the mainsail, it is really very difficult to raise the sail. So what would my process be to attempt to make it easier? Okay, I think the first thing that I would do before doing anything else is if this is the mast, I would grab hold. Here's the main halyard. There's the other end of the main halyard, probably coming out of the bottom of the mast. I would grab hold of both. Where's this hand? There. Both bits of main halyard and kind of pull with a little bit of tension in the main halyard that pulls the sail up. So just to see if the main halyard on its own is offering some resistance. A lot of the time, the resistance is coming from the main halyard, because what happens is the block at the top of the mast, it might be like a ball bearing block, or it might not be. It might just be a solid sheave. But what happens if it's a metal one is this hole in the middle of the block over time can stop being a circle and start being like an oval shape, which means the block slips downwards like that. And then we've got the metal at the top, or it might be carbon, if it's carbon on here, isn't it? At the top of the mast, it kind of gets wedged in, and that means that this block no longer turns. So what we're doing when we hoist the mainsail is we're kind of polishing the block, and it's getting even more worn, and that is going to make hoisting the sail really, really difficult. So that would be the first thing that I would look at. Second thing would be to do the same with the block at the bottom of the mast. So there'll be a block here where the halyard comes out. That would be my guess. Anyway, I haven't actually had a look at an M20 in the flesh like that, but checking the blocks first and the halyard, see how that runs through the blocks, that is a really good place to start. What would be next if it was like, no, that feels really good? The next thing I would do is either to drop the mast or put the boat on its side and just have a look at the track of the mast. Just see if there's anything obvious going on there. So just a visual inspection, give the mast track a really good wash just with fresh water. See if there's any bits sticking inwards or that look a bit tighter than the rest, and see what you can do to loosen that up. So that means we've checked the blocks, we've checked the mast. So the next thing we need to do is just to check the sail, that there aren't any like fat spots in the bolt rope. You know, perhaps where the batten pockets are, maybe if there's a lot of tension in the battens, that is also going to add resistance. And with the more modern boats with the high aspect rig, we're not looking for, like, if you've got your sail lying on the floor, here's the floor, that's the floor. We're not looking to be able to see bend in the battens like that. We're looking for it to lie flat on the floor, so the battens don't kind of pop from one side to the other. But we don't want it so loose that the batten can move in the pocket. So it's a quite kind of like a delicate balance of the batten being tight enough that it doesn't move, but not so tight that it puts curve into the sail. Yeah. So those are the checks that I would do. And the final thing that I would do to make life easier is, before going to hoist the mainsail, just to get the bolt rope, the front edge of the sail, just wash it with some water, with some fresh water if possible. And that makes things so much easier to hoist. And then the next thing, when we go to hoist the sail, now this, I hope this isn't too obvious, but you never know. It might be like some things sometimes are so obvious that they get overlooked. But if this is the boat here, make sure it is pointing directly into the wind. And then the last thing, because that means the mast, the sail, and the wind are all in a straight line. And then the last thing is, if when you start pulling the sail up, you notice that there's a lot of curve in the battens back to this point here. But if there are, then just try to make sure all the battens are rotated. So if this is the mast, all of the battens are curved the same way, like this. Not to have some on one side and some curved the other side. That's going to help as well. So a few things to look at there, Ben. Good luck with that. And yeah, I'm going to be in touch very shortly regarding a road trip to Azerbaijan. I think that sounds pretty fun, actually. All right. So next, back into the preloaded, and 56 minutes and 22 seconds now. So more questions in the live chat. If you could please accompany these with a super sticker, that would be great. And in fact, just had a question come in from Kitewinds. Oh, and Kevin's on board. Yeah. So Kevin, I've also spent time with for some live in-person coaching. Kevin made the most of when I was in the USA last year. He drove down from Illinois to Ocean Springs, Mississippi for some great Hobie 16 training. Good time. So Kitewinds says systems allowing for digitally read wind direction from the mast top. When the mast is rotating on many catamarans, is there many? Can I build one DIY? What is needed to start collecting wind data? Gosh. Now, this is the first time a question of this magnitude has ever crossed my door. And to be honest, I haven't got much of an answer for that, because this, oh, thank you very much, Kitewinds. I see you're from Sweden. Yeah, Kitewinds in with the super sticker, keeping the Q&A ad-free. All right, Ben, I just saw your message. Thanks very much. I'll definitely be in touch because this might save the day for me. Yeah, so to be honest, Kitewinds, I have very little. I don't actually think I can help with that, but I'm sure you could build one DIY. So I think what Kitewinds is asking is it possible to put on a catamaran with a rotating mast the kind of wind measurement kind of tools that you'd get on a much larger boat, like a yacht or a large keel boat? Yeah. Yeah. And how would it overcome the fact that the mast is rotating? Would it need to, so Kitewinds, there's a lot of the science department who watch these videos, so I'm hoping that someone might jump in with a solution to this. If anyone would like to jump in with a solution to this, you are very welcome. But to be honest, this is beyond my realm of expertise, apart from that I could scratch my head about this one. But I'm afraid I really don't. No, I think you could get like wind speed at the top of the mast by putting an anemometer at the top of the mast. And maybe, surely there are anemometers which are digitally advanced enough to know its compassed bearings. Yeah. Okay. Kite Winds has seen me struggling and said, okay, I'll ask Mr. Grok, who I believe is from the artificial intelligence community. Yeah. Thanks again for the super sticker, Kite Winds. Sorry, I couldn't be of more help. All right. And we got Julien on board in Bordeaux, France. Great to have you with us. Okay. I'm going back to the preloaded questions. So the next one is from Lunrya or Lun RYA. If you're a supporter of the RYA, Royal Yachting Association, Lunrya. Sorry, that's enough of trying to work out how to pronounce your name. Any tips to improve the grip of the ratchet on the spinnaker sheet? Yes, we've got tips like that. First thing we can do is, if this is our ratchet block, Declan, welcome on board with the super sticker. Sweden has entered the building. Yeah, Declan might be somebody for the answer to that question there, Kite Winds. If you could just have a look at Kite Winds' question, a few questions up in the live chat, if that tickles you, that would be amazing, because this is beyond my area of any sort of expertise. All right, but my area of expertise is how to get more grip from a ratchet block on a spinnaker. So ratchet blocks, for those of you who don't know, a block is what we're calling a pulley. And if we look at the profile of the pulley, so this is if we were looking at it from above, and then the spinnaker sheet would come from the spinnaker, go around the block, and then onto it's the sailor's hand or something. If we look at the block in the other view, so we've got the two walls of the block, then we've got the sheave of the block, which would be something like this. And then in a ratchet block, in the sheave would be little grooves or ridges, let's call them, in the block, which the idea with those ridges is that it grips the rope. Now, if your rope isn't being gripped enough and you're finding it very hard to sheet in, and you don't want to replace your blocks, because over time your blocks will become worn and these ridges will become smaller. That is the first truth that we have to address. But how can we get more friction? We can get more friction by increasing the amount of the block that the spinnaker sheet is in contact with. So the thing to do here is, if this is the front beam, spinnaker's coming from up here, here's a block further down the boat, is we can put a second block, and that one doesn't have to be a ratchet block, just any block. Have I got one handy? No, I haven't got one handy, but any block of a similar size. This would probably be a 57 or 60 mil block. You could put a 40 mil block here, and then that means that the spinnaker sheet goes round this block and then round this block and then into the hand of the crew or the sailor. And what that means is we've now got almost twice as much coverage of the block with the sheet, which is going to give us twice as much grip. Now, if that isn't enough, like maybe you're sailing an M20, good size spinnaker on that bad boy, and you want to fly your spinnaker when it's windy, the next thing to do would be for this block to also be a ratchet block. Okay, there we go. I think that's some pretty good answers there on that topic. All right, back into the preloaded. All right. Oh, this one is from Tree Man Cam. All right. So Tree Man Cam says, when you're putting your boat on a mooring, what exactly is the mooring made of? This is an excellent question. So what we're doing, and this is going to test my artistic skills. That's a pretty good start, I think. All right. Can you tell what it is yet? Oh, it was going pretty well. This is a 3D representation of a car tire. So what we're doing is we're taking a car tire and we're filling it with concrete. That's what we're using as a ground weight for our moorings. And then into the car tire, into that concrete, the way that we generally do it is we put a bit of bar before we pour the concrete in. We put a bit of bar going across so that if that bar did pull up, it would catch within the kind of rim of the tire. And then onto that bar, we're attaching a bit of chain. Not a massive amount of chain, just enough chain to be sure. And then this is a lot of fun, actually. And then onto the chain is going the mooring rope, which is about 2 times, maybe 2.5 times as deep as the water. Of course, if you are in an area where there is tide, then it would need to be even longer. And then on the end of the mooring, we would have a carabiner. That's how I'm drawing a carabiner today. And then also, of course, we're going to need some sort of plastic buoy on there as well to make it float. So there we go. And then what we've got where the moorings are here in Vasiliki is the nature of the bottom is it is a hard sand bottom. So what we make sure that we do is we put the moorings in a good week or 2 weeks before we intend to use them, because then what happens is the mooring somehow, due to when there's wave action, the sand underneath is getting kind of hollowed out a bit, which is creating a vacuum. I think this is what happens. And that kind of sucks the mooring into this cavity. And after a pretty short time, like a couple of weeks, half of the tire will be buried in the sand, making it really strong. Does make it very difficult when it comes to bringing them out at the end of the season. There we go. All right. Also tuning in, we have got Zihen Volks from Wimereux, France. Great to have you with us. Thanks for tuning in. Omar is on board as well. Hello, JRT. I'll take that. Joyrider TV. All right. Declan has got I knew Declan was the man for a good answer here. The mast is not the best place for the wind sensor. You could put a solid state device lung from the bridle. Better place for a wind sensor. There we go. Thank you, Declan, for coming in with that. All right. Anything else in the live chat? In the preloaded. No, we have we're at the finish line. Thanks very much, everybody, for tuning in. Oh, hold on. Omar is in there. Oh, and Declan's in there as well. If you are interested in Arduino projects, we can chat more on the Joyrider Discord. Yes. So yeah, Joyrider does have a Discord, which is, if you're not familiar, it is a facility where you can chat with other like-minded individuals. Now, the Discord server, the Joyrider Discord server, is linked in the description of every single video on Joyrider TV. So just go to a video, click on view description, scroll down, and then you can click on the link, and then you can chat about projects, anything at all. It was originally set up for people who are traveling so that they could, if you're going to San Diego, California, you could say in the Discord, anybody from San Diego, California, who would fancy taking me out for a sail? I'm going to be in town for a few days. Or vice versa, you could say, if anybody's coming to Egypt and wants to go for a sail, let me know, because I'd be very glad to take you out on my boat. Or if anybody was coming to, I don't know, to Lake Constance, you could say, if anybody's coming to Lake Constance, Germany, then let me know and you can use my boat for free, that kind of thing. All right, so there we go. All right, Declan says also, shout out to those going to Vasiliki this summer. Let's try to get our dates coordinated so that we can all go at the same time. Yes, that's what we're saying. The Discord server would be a very good place for that. But do check my schedule as well on the, what's it called? On the website. Yes. All right. So Omar, all right, last question of the day. Unless somebody has got another question and comes in with a very generous super sticker to accompany that question. I'm preparing to learn to sail this summer. How fit do I need to be? Do I need to work on body weight squats? No. I think rather than being strong, it's actually more useful to be reasonably flexible. So I would work on flexibility rather than the strength. But what I would also, flexibility more than strength. And probably one of the most physically demanding bits of sailing a small boat, whether it's a dinghy or a catamaran, is getting into it or onto it from in the water to onto the boat. So that is going to be one of the most challenging aspects. So ask yourself, if you go to a swimming pool, can you get out of the swimming pool without using the steps at the side? If you can, you should be fine getting onto a sailing boat, catamaran. But if it's difficult, maybe that will tell you what is going to be one of the most challenging bits. And can you explain what the Cunningham does really quickly? All right. So from Zyhane. Yeah, what the Cunningham does, it kind of does two things. It's a progressive control. Here's our boat. Our 16 has got a long mast. So there's the sail. If we if we don't use the Cunningham, also known as the downhaul, at all, what we're going to have is many creases in the sail. So, and if we look at the sail from the top, so if we go 0, that's a 0. From the top, no Cunningham, the sail is just going to be a shapeless, crumpled mess, which is very handy if the boat is on the beach, or if we're not ready to sail, or if we're taking a break while we're out sailing and we don't want there to be power in the sail, so it will just sit there nicely. So when we want to sail, we pull on the Cunningham probably of the whole range to probably about 30%. And what that will do is that's going to put a nice smooth curve into the sail. Oh, thanks very much for your super sticker there, Omar. We're definitely doing well, and thank you very much. That is very generous. Yes, about 30%. That is when we're going to put the maximum amount of curve into the sail. We know when it's the right amount of downhaul or Cunningham for this initial amount. This is the least that we'd use, because all these creases in the sail will disappear. There we go. Easy. If, however, you then pull in the main sheet, if more creases appear again, because that's pulling the sail down as well, then pull the downhaul on a bit more. Then beyond 30% of the downhaul, when we put on more, what happens is, if this is the mast here, what it does is it moves the center of effort of the sail further forwards and flattens the sail as well. So it actually moves it further forwards and down, which means we then start transferring the extra power that we've got into more boat speed, because the further forwards in the sail we have the center of effort, that's going to help to drive us forwards, and the further down we have it, that means that that extra power isn't just going to make the boat want to fly the hull, but we're really going to be able to utilize that. So that would be like 70%. And then if we go 100% of the downhaul, then we're going to get a really flat sail. There we go. All right. That is all we've got time for. I've got a sleepover going on in the house, and I've got to cook some pizza. Yes, I have. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all the super stickers. Very good. That means next week's Q&A is going to remain ad-free. All right. Have a great weekend. Hopefully I'll have a new video out on Sunday at the usual time. But we'll see how it goes. All right. Have a nice weekend. Get on the speed stick if you're going sailing. Thank you.